Several weeks ago, I had to change the Wednesday night activity that we have planned for the last Wednesday night of the month to another night, simply because we had family plans. And I have to honestly make a confession. Our family plans went down the drain. Steve took time off from work. Ruth is on her vacation. But the family down in Indiana upset the plans. It wasn't their fault, that it just happened that way. So last Wednesday night afternoon, last Wednesday morning, let me put it that way, Ruth, Steve, and I got up early in the morning. Ruth shaking her head back there. I hope you all heard it. We got up early Wednesday morning, and we decided that we were going to go to Corbin, Kentucky, where I used to preach, and where Ruth used to live for quite a while, and to visit some friends that we had down there. We enjoyed going down. We had a good family time going down. We stayed down there for about 3 or 4 hours visiting with some of the friends, and we went to a small restaurant that was owned by one of my friends down there that could not come to our little gathering. But we sat down for about 3 hours and we discussed many, many things together. It was good to renew acquaintances. But on the way back, I was driving through Winchester, Kentucky, and there was a big traffic sign that was put out that said, "School zone ahead," warning people to slow down because of the school zone. I was overwhelmed. And I told Ruth, and she was sitting beside me, Steve likes to sit in the back where he can sleep. I told Ruth, I said, "What's that sign doing out so early?" And she informed me that many places in Kentucky had already started school. I come to find out that that was one of the reasons why Mary Alice could not make it to the family concept, because their school was getting ready to start and they had meetings to go to as a result of the school. I could not believe that in this day and age that the kids start to school the end of July and the beginning of August. I said something to Mike a little bit earlier about it. He said, "Well, with me, when I was young, I used to start school the day after Labor Day." In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's when most of the schools started, but some went to the middle of September before they started. I'm going to tell you the progression of an old person's thinking. I got thinking that when Ruth took over driving in Winchester, because we stopped and got a milkshake. Boy, that milkshake was that big. And I ate it all, and Ruth couldn't eat it all. But the progression of my thinking was, boy, school just started. Day after Labor Day. And then I got thinking about my high school days. And I began to wonder where time went. They say that one of the signs of getting old is when everything seems like it just happened yesterday. And it just seemed like everything happened yesterday. And as I began to think along those lines, I began to think of the brevity of life, how short life is. Well, when you consider the time of the age of this earth, and I happen to believe it's about 8,000 or 9,000 years old because of the Bible, what the Bible teaches. And I think science can prove it if they would only set their mind to it. When I got thinking about the shortness of my life, I began to think what the Bible had to say about the shortness of life. There are several scriptures in Psalms 90:10. It says, the length of our days is 70 years, or 80, if we have the strength. Yet their span is but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass, and we fly away. I like what James says in James 4:13 and 14. It says, now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will do this or that, go to this or do that city and spend a year there, carry on business and make money. Why? You do not even know that what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? You are a mist. King James says vapor, a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Very few people live past the years that we have spent. I think it's great for some people to get to be 100, but when you think of the 100, there always seems to be always the physical problems or the mental problems associated with it. And as I thought about the brevity of life, I began to wonder, what can we do to accomplish more for Jesus Christ? I want you to think just for a moment, victorious Christian living. What is it? How do we gain it? What is the source of being able to live for Christ? I'm going to tell you something that I've told very few people in my lifetime. I'm not saying this for any reason to brag, but there's a point that I want to make by telling it. I remember I was preaching down in Etowah, Tennessee, reaching my age of 65. And I was thinking of the idea of retiring and going into semi-preaching, semi-retirement, living on my Social Security and doing what I could for some small churches. I tell you, it was a devastating time for me. Because as I was thinking about retirement, I got thinking, well, what did you accomplish in your life? I got thinking, I served no large church. Most of my churches were 100 or thereabout. I wrote no books or had no articles printed in any of the magazines that we have that are out today. As I thought about the conventions that I attended, there was no convention that I ever spoke to. I held very few revivals. And I got thinking, Phil, what did you do with your life? And I'll be honest with you, I became very devastated and depressed as a result of my thinking about these things. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, I had my devotions. I had my prayer. And much of my prayer was centered upon the idea of the depression that I was going through at that particular time. I had no idea what happened. I have absolutely no idea what happened. I either fell asleep during my prayer time as I was laying in bed, or I was near sleeping, or whatever. But as I was in this dream state, I'm going to call it a dream state, I visualized in my thinking. A woman came up to me in my dream, I recognized as being Mrs. Flitcraft. An 80-year-old blonde woman that I baptized into Christ, who died shortly thereafter. Another man, Mr. Tarr, who had been sent to prison for some immoral activities that I brought back into the church. And one by one, people whose lives that I had touched down through the years started to come up to me and thank me for what I did for them in the ministry. And as they were coming, I heard a voice, which was quoting from Matthew, the 25th chapter. I don't even have the verse down in the notes. Making a comment, inasmuch as you've done it unto